commercial use and not allowed in single-family zoning.
That's right.
Oslar Farms, located in a residential community, starts to slaughter chickens and wholesale them and compost their body parts on site. The odor and smell travels to the neighborhoods and neighbors complain. The city code enforcers shut down the process of slaughtering chickens and their wholesale. The farm continues to operate. The present urban farm ordinance is currently being revised. Our question is, would the slaughtering of chickens and composting of body parts be allowed to take place in Terrytown or Pemberton neighborhoods? Would Terrytown or Pemberton neighbors allow single-family land to be bought and transformed to urban farms next door to their residents? Of course, the answer is no. I'm assure you that attorneys would intervene to protect their single-family use. But in poor and working-class communities of color, we are to accept the slaughtering of chickens and composting body parts on site. We are to accept the use of urban farms for numerous uses besides growing vegetables and fruits. We are to accept that urban farms can make additional monies by renting their facilities for weddings, parties, book signing, etc., and all of this without required parking and zoning requirements. The rules are different for the poor and working class communities of color in East Austin. Again, this is discrimination and many say racism. Single-family zone land should remain for single-family use. East Austin needs to retain its affordable housing. Yes, single-family zone land in East Austin is affordable. That is why zip code 78702 in East Austin, Texas was declared in 2012 the second most gentrified zip code in the entire United States. The urban farm ordinance and the current proposed revised recommendation of the ordinance are discriminatory. The most impacted community, the Gold Valley Johnson Terrace Neighborhood Plan area's recommendations have been ignored. The Gold Valley Johnson Combined Neighborhood Plan was adopted in March 2003. The majority of people involved in developing this plan were people of color. Our adopted neighborhood plan is being ignored. The rules for the poor and the working class communities of color in East Austin are different. Again, this is discrimination, and many say racism. The current proposed revised ordinance would create a blanket zoning of CSMU, commercial services mixed use. We recommend that outside entities from various departments of the University of Texas and our other universities come together with communities and farmers to develop an urban farm ordinance that doesn't discriminate. Thank you.
Next speaker is Daniel Yanis, speaking on growth and gentrification in East Austin. Oh, it's always at the...
Thank you, council members. My name is Daniel Yanis. I'm the chair of the Gold Valley Johnson Terrace Neighborhood Contact Team. First and foremost, we're here about gentrification. This was a zoning case and it has become a gentrification issue. This is not about urban farms. We appreciate and value the farms in our neighborhood. Our concern is about one property owner who happens to be an urban farmer and was engaged in the commercial slaughtering of animals and the composting of body parts in a residential downtown neighborhood on single-family zoning. Because of the proposed urban farm language rewrite, we oppose any further siting of future farms on single-family zone land. Additionally, applications for urban farms must go through the neighborhood plan amendment process where applicable. In this first slide, you can see at two separate meetings we attended with the subcommittee of the Sustainable Food Policy Board. City staff displayed a map showing the urban farms and that there were some farms located in West Austin. We stated that urban farms are only in East Austin, so we submitted an open records request on the locations, zoning permits of those alleged farms in West Austin. On June 27th, we received a list of 6 farms. We questioned the criteria of 2 of those farms, and they were removed from the list. On July 5th, we received another list with 4 farms allegedly in West Austin. We visited all of those sites. We found that there were no urban farms in West Austin. Unity Farm was not within the city limits of Austin. The other list was Back to the Garden at 1900 Schofield on single-family zoning. That did not exist. 1900 Schofield is a residence. It is in a residential neighborhood called Schofield Farms. Bella Verde Farms at 5820 West Highway 290 is actually a Montessori school. Bella Verde Farms is in Dripping Springs, Texas. Yummy Farms, located at 6909 Chinook, is a residence on it's a single-family residence. There it is. They had no idea that they were listed as an urban farm.
Wow.
Now, one of these sites was an urban farms list. So you have to question city staff and their use of information here. As you all can see, all of the urban farms are located in our neighborhood. We have been trying to work with them to remedy this issue. But I hope that you can understand and see why it is that the urban farm ordinance rewrite in its current form is discriminatory. An ordinance that has the potential to adversely affect affordable housing for the poor and working class communities of color in East Austin. So, City Council members, we ask you to ensure that no commercial slaughtering of animals or composting of body parts in residential areas be permitted. We ask you that no siting of future farms be located on single-family zoning. And we ask that applications for urban farms designation go through the planning process where applicable. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yanis. Next speaker is Karen Haddon. Now is the time to move on solar energy. Ms. Haddon, you still here? Here you go.
Good afternoon. I'm Karen Haddon. I'm here today on behalf of the SEED Coalition, Sustainable Energy and Economic Development Coalition, and urging you to maintain and in fact increase the budget for solar energy in Austin. I think now is the right time to put in place more solar, both rooftop solar, distributed solar, and also utility scale projects, which in some cases, if you are expanding how much solar you're developing, you can get benefits from the scale of economy. So it's common sense that solar energy is the perfect solution right now for our energy needs. It's low carbon, it reduces emissions, we need to be thinking about that. It helps us meet our goals for climate progress. It also uses less water. So this is the right way to go, and it's the future. Right now we see the cost of panels plummeting. We see the efficiency of panels increasing due to improved technologies. Just yesterday, First Solar announced, for a couple of years now, they've been moving into commercial development of utility scale projects, and they bought a whopping 1.5 gigawatts that's in the development pipeline, and that includes projects that are in Texas and many other states, and it also includes several utility scale projects in the state of Sonora in Mexico. So I think that, we're not ahead of the game. We're actually falling behind in Austin. We've watched San Antonio move forward with a 400 megawatt project. Now is the time for Austin to move forward. And I think that it can benefit everyone, especially done right. We need innovative ways to finance projects. We need innovative ways to help those who want to get solar achieve those goals. And the utility can and should find ways to profit from this, as well as getting clean energy for all of us. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Laura Rice, speaking on behalf of Crestview. Ms. Rice, you here?
First, next slide, show me what it is. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Laura Rice, and I'm here to ask you today to keep your promise of a neighborhood park in Crestview. I've been a dog walking, bike riding resident of Crestview for a year now. I live on Grover Avenue, about a mile from the Austin Energy property. Meet Neppy, my walking companion. Last August, the week I moved in, we could walk east on Marl, and I looked across the open field beyond this fence and was amazed to be able to see the downtown skyline. Now, about a month later, that view was gone due to an explosion of construction in Midtown Commons, next to We stand to gain thousands of new neighbors in apartments and single-family homes. Let's look at another development, barely a mile up the road at the 5300 block of North Loop and Lamar, slide 8. This is a popular bike route that I, as a bike rider, take to work, but the thought of that apartment traffic turning on Lamar in the morning is frightening. Less than a half a mile from that, on East 51st, we have federal mortgage housing assistance development going up. This is less than 2 miles from the Austin Energy property. And if we turn around here and head back west, a little over a mile down North Loop to the 5500 block of Vernon Road, we see yet another development. Council members, these developments, all in a 3-mile radius of my home, will add thousands in population density with no green space to match the growth. Why are we covering our city with concrete? Now, I'm sure our neighbors in Crestview Homes and Midtown Commons would appreciate a park space, and I, as a bike rider, would much rather cut through a park to get to the train station as opposed to an apartment parking lot. Now that you've seen all the development in this area, do you really still believe you need a puny 5.6 acres that's been promised for a park to turn into affordable housing, which kind of to me sounds like a de facto admission maybe that everything else I've shown you this morning is unaffordable? I'm here to say enough development. Frankly, considering the high electric bills we've all paid over the years, giving us a return in green space would be a noble gesture on your part and a gift untold generations will enjoy. You've seen from other speakers, you've seen and heard our plans. We've told you we'll take care of our part. So if we'll just roll those schools and transformers on out of that space, we will roll up our sleeves and get to work putting a view back in Crestview. Thank you.
Next speaker is Kaiba White, speaking on solar energy, expanding solar energy goals, expanding funding for solar energy programs, and establishing a community solar program.
Good afternoon. My name is Kaiba White, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Solar Austin on the issue of solar goals and programs, as well as funding for those programs. As you all know, the local Solar Advisory Committee was formed last year to study the potential to affordably expand solar energy adoption in Austin. The LSAC was made up of a diverse array of business, environmental, energy, and community leaders with considerable expertise in solar energy and the needs and limitations of our community. On November 1st of last year, the LSAC unanimously approved a set of recommendations that included expanding our solar goal to at least 400 megawatts by 2020. There are 2 really significant pieces to that sentence. The first is unanimously approved. The LSAC included representatives of entities that often find themselves on opposite sides of energy, environmental, and many other issues. But they came together and they studied the facts, and they agreed that Austin Energy could be doing more to invest in solar in our city, and that we would all benefit from that investment. And in fact, the LSAC study shows that a $60 million investment between now and 2020 would yield an estimated $360 million in local economic benefits. I entirely understand that Austin Energy doesn't necessarily take that into account in its accounting and recommendations, but I hope that you all will. The second important point is that the LSAC recommended at least 400 megawatts for 2020. They didn't rule out 600 megawatts, and they recommended regular reviews, perhaps more often than the generation plan reviews. And part of that would be assessing the solar market and progress made towards goals, and perhaps expanding those goals as solar becomes even more affordable. Austin Energy has recommended a 42% reduction in its funding for its solar rebate program in the fiscal year 2014 budget. The LSAC recommended at least $7.5 million, and that it may be beneficial to go beyond that to capture as much value as possible from the 30% federal tax credit. And that's going to be reduced in 2017, so acting now does have some merit. In addition to establishing that 400 megawatt goal for 2020, I urge you to provide between 7.5 and 10 million for that solar rebate program in this budget. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak.
Ms. White.
Energy Committee on the 21st of August, and I hope to have this as a discussion, the budget for solar as a discussion item.
Excellent, thank you.
Next speaker is Mary Arnett, speaking on police staffing and budget request.
Council members, thank you for listening to me today. My name is Mary Arnett. I live in the North Shore Creek neighborhood, and I'm a resident of Austin since 1974. The city manager has put before you a proposed budget that only addresses 47 of the 92 sworn positions requested by APD. It only addresses the forensic scientists and not the other civilian positions that are needed, most notably the crime analysts. Council members, please stop lying to the media and the taxpayers of Austin. Please stop repeating the fib. The taxpayers of Austin are not quite as stupid as you think we are. Saying that the 47 gets us to the 2.0 ratio is a lie. Whether you agree with the ratio or not, it is a lie to say that. The extra officers are not allowed to be booked as an expense until past April of 2014. Those cadets are in a class for 7 more months, and then they have 3 or 4 more months of doubling up with another officer in their probationary period. We won't see those officers answering 911 calls on our streets until halfway through 2015. So it's a charade, it's a farce, please stop saying it. And I'm putting reporters in the media on notice that they are perpetrating lies if they use those words in their headlines and reports. Mr. Spellman, you caused our city to spend $100,000 on a report that gave us a foregone conclusion. We need to catch up so that our growing city will have the staffing it requires to keep us safe. I wonder if you ever thought about how many household taxpayer bills it takes to pay for that $100,000 report that is essentially being tossed aside. I gave you my vote bill in 2007 because you told us that you are all about community policing. I know now that these are empty words. We have an uncommitted time rate of 15%, and you yourself said it needed to be upwards of 20 to 25%. Laura Morrison, I understand that you have designs on being mayor in future here. If that's true, you'll be running on your record. We're watching and listening to what you say and do. The voters told all of you no to affordable housing bonds last November. Some of you have been busy undermining the general revenue fund by promoting affordable housing as something that can only be addressed by a bureaucracy of city workers and a sprinkling of reduced rent apartments throughout the city. I've yet to hear anyone's broad vision or creative business-like solutions to the issues of housing affordability for all of Austin. And yet you're asking the voters to exchange their future safety for something that is not supported by the majority of voters. I'm asking this council to correct a wrong with a right. You need to reverse the transfer of the $10 million from the surplus fund. Your own budget director told you that the surplus is normally used in the next fiscal year budget. You've siphoned off these tax dollars for your project. That can be undone by a resolution from any one of you up here. We'll be watching to see if you have the fortitude to do the right thing and restore that money back to the general fund. Please use that money for unmet needs. Your affordable housing bond issue is doomed if the voters have no confidence in your ability to
parking, causing access issues for first responders. Rather than upholding the zoning and stopping the encroachment, the city embraced the placement of commercial properties in residential areas. Now we hear statements about the property rights of those who clearly purchased SF property and then changed the use. There are structural holes in our system. The majority of the commercial inroads are unenforceable. There is no accountability built in. The changes mentioned above transform stable neighborhoods into ones in transition, ripe for takeover and redevelopment to support the vision that you are trying to create. Instead of building relationships and being good neighbors, homeowners become code compliance officers. There is no protection for the reporting of violations and no assurances that anything will be done if violations are found. The police department rarely responds to calls regarding illegal parking in neighborhoods.
That's right.
As powerful people, you have been given many different kinds of currencies to use for the good of the people. Please be good stewards of what you have been given. Please stop allowing commercial uses in residential areas. Thank you so much.
Next speaker is Robert Morrow, speaking on Lyndon Johnson and the murder of Martin Luther King.
Good afternoon, Council. Quick personal note here. This is my great-grandfather, Dr. William Hartlow, is
one of the most prominent physicians in Alabama 70 years ago. He was also the superintendent of the state mental health hospital. And unfortunately, he was a prominent eugenicist. And he also advocated and carried out hundreds of forced sterilizations of people under his care. I own that, I look at it, I reject that. The Nazis took ideas like that and ran with the football. On to LBJ. Lyndon Johnson and the murder of Martin Luther King. Did he do it? I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. The first family of civil rights, the family of Martin Luther King, thinks so. 1997, ABC News. Do you believe that Lyndon Johnson was part of the plot to kill your father? Dexter King on national TV with the entire family around him answers, yes, I do. That's what the Martin Luther King family thinks about Lyndon Johnson and civil rights. They think he's a murderer of their father. This year is the 50th anniversary of the JFK assassination. It's a no-brainer that Lyndon Johnson murdered John Kennedy. All the other murders are questionable. Maybe he killed Robert Kennedy, maybe he killed Martin Luther King. Here's Robert Caro, talking about John Connolly. John Connolly, who during long days of conversation with this author was willing to answer almost any question put to him, no matter how delicate the topic, wouldn't answer when asked what Johnson said about Robert Kennedy. When the author pressed him, he said flatly, I'm not going to tell you what he said about him. During the months after the convention of 1960, when Johnson was closeted alone back in Texas with an old ally, he would sometimes be asked about Robert Kennedy. He would reply with a gesture. Raising his big right hand, he would draw the side of it across the neck in a slowing, slitting movement. Sometimes that gesture would be his only reply. Sometimes it's during a meeting with Ed Clark in Austin, he would say, as his hand moved across his neck, I'll cut his throat. It's the last thing I do. So I think it's important for people to confront their past, look at it, examine it, and own it. Thank you.
The next speaker is Tom Smith, speaking on growth for solar and economic development.
Good afternoon, council members. There are probably some materials making their way to you. My name is Tom Smith, or Smitty. I run Public Citizens Texas office. And I was proud to be selected to be a member of the local Solar Advisory Council. And you may remember that about a year ago, you selected some of the people that you thought knew the most about solar and solar trends to come together and take a look at Austin Energy solar goals and to make recommendations back to you. You gave them a 6-month time frame, and we delivered on time, November 1st of last year. Now, that was just not environmentalists. As you've heard from others, it also had a significant number of business groups, academics, and solar professionals. And what they recommended was a number that we should at least get 400 megawatts of new solar. And they didn't pull that number out of thin air. They pegged it to the growth in peak demand between now and 2020. Why? Because that's the most expensive and power on the system. At ERCOT today, the bids run about 10 cents a kilowatt hour for peak. There's a proposal over at the Public Utilities Commission to raise it as much as $90 per kilowatt hour. And as a result of that, the price of the peak power can go up dramatically. Now, when you look at the cost of providing energy in Austin with solar, what this study found, and what lots of other studies confirm, is that it's cheaper to generate electricity on peak with solar today than it is to fire and fuel those old peakers or even a new peaker. On page 27 of the report that you have for you, there's a chart that basically says the cost of building and fueling a brand new natural gas turbine in 2020 is going to be about 9.46 cents a kilowatt hour. Meeting that demand with solar, 6.3 cents a kilowatt hour. Net energy savings about 3.1 cents a kilowatt hour, or more or less 30%. And that's what this is all about. We looked at the numbers and said, this is a no-brainer. Let's develop a bunch of different programs. And we looked at not just putting stuff on rooftops of houses, that's the smallest part of what we recommended. We talked about putting a lot of stuff on businesses, local community solar programs, and a bunch of stuff out in West Texas where it's really cheap to do this. And so our recommendation was balanced, and we're asking for an appropriation of $7.6 million in this next biennium, which will be the high point of appropriations over this build-out of solar, and because the price of solar is declining very rapidly. Now, when we approached you a year ago and said, we'd like to increase the growth of solar, y'all said, we're in the middle of a rate case at that time, and we respect it. Then you all said, we really ought to do a study. And we thought that was a really good idea, and we respected that. And then when the study was over, you were in the middle of an appeal of that rate case in a legislative session. And we respected that and did not move that with the promise that this would come up in June of this year. It's now August, and our friends over at Austin Energy say we need more time. We got a question. When is Austin Energy and the City Council going to show us the respect we have shown them and look at the efforts that we and their staff put into developing a plan that used their numbers and was cost-based and saved money? Thank you very much for your time.
Last speaker is Stan Hipkins, speaking on the LSAC report.
My name is Stan Pipkin. I'm with Lighthouse Solar, and I was a contributing member of the LSAC as well, and I appreciate the opportunity to come before you again. I'd like to echo a few of the sentiments and recommendations from previous speakers, but focus on just a context update from when we were talking basically last year. I'd submit to you a funneling analogy that last year and previous years you were like a butterfly and flapped your wings, and instead of producing a hurricane somewhere else around the world, you produced a growing solar ecosystem that is an engine for economic development. And here to ask you to flap a little bit more. Last year, we met, like Smitty just said, and came up with recommendations on information that was based on the most current real-time pricing and trends, most of which we're looking out 5 years with any reasonable certainty. And I've been aghast at how wrong we were in the sense that prices have fallen much more than we expected. And I would say part of that is due to this local markets activities. We've also benefited from the world coming into our backyard. I've seen that even as early as this morning. There are European companies looking at Austin as the gateway to Texas. We're at the pivot of something that's a tsunami in a lot of ways, and I see it happening. I think our plan was less of a stretch goal, it was more of a preparedness goal. And I think we're now seeing that pressure is coming. I would submit to you 2 examples in contrast to our light competition with San Antonio. I think leadership, as Karen mentioned, is coming from unlikely corners of the nation. And I can send you this information if you like. There's 2 co-op utilities across, one in New Mexico, Taos, Kit Carson, another in Minnesota, of all places, Rockford, Minnesota, who have worked on a community solar model that's appropriate to their community, and it met 2 goals. It shouldn't cost the utility any undue burden, and it should speak directly to the community's voices, what they wanted, what they asked for. And in a lot of ways, the process that you began, starting a committee that had representative cross-section from the community, that's what they committed to. They kept working at it. It was transparent, and it was a process that they did not give up on. To date, each one of those in their own ways have reaped benefits that they had no idea could have come out of a commitment to solar. In addition to the inherent benefits that solar energy provides, there are community benefits, one including enhance tourism. The other was an innovative business model. It is now being exported across the nation. I'd be glad to get you more information on that, but I urge you to expand the goals. This is a minor flapping of the wings to see disproportionate benefits.
Thank you, Mr. Pipkin. I think we would all appreciate that information. Please feel free to send it all to us electronically.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. The citizen communication. The City Council will now go into closed session to take up 5 items pursuant to Section 551.071 of the Government Code. The City Council will consult with legal counsel regarding the following items. Item 80, legal issues related to November 2013 affordable housing general obligation bond election. Item 81, legal issues related to open government matters. Item 82, legal issues related to the transition to electing the council from single districts. Item 84, legal issues related to the recent U.S. Supreme Court case striking the application of the requirement of also pursuant to Section 551.074 of the Government Code, the City Council will take up 1 item related to personnel matters regarding the following. Item 83, evaluate the performance of and consider the compensation and benefits for the municipal court clerk. There being no objection, going into executive session, all the items announced. I object. Going into executive session. Thank you. Board recess.